33F. I received a screenshot of my husband's secret dating profile from a number I didn't recognize. How a stranger's misdirected message shattered my 7-year marriage in 8 seconds, using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. This happened 4 months ago, and I'm still processing everything that followed. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here we are. The notification appeared on my phone at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, an ordinary workday. I was sitting in a budget meeting, half listening to quarterly projections, when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "I think you should know what your boyfriend's been up to. Found him on Hinge yesterday." Before I could even process the words, a screenshot loaded beneath the message. There was my husband David's face, smiling back at me from a dating profile. Not an old, forgotten account from before we met. The photos were recent. One from our trip to Colorado 3 months ago. Another I had taken myself at his sister's wedding last summer. His profile claimed he was 31, single, and looking for casual fun while I figure things out. He was 34, married for 7 years, and apparently figuring things out behind my back. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. A wave of nausea so intense I had to excuse myself from the meeting, barely making it to the bathroom before throwing up. Hands shaking so violently I could hardly type, I responded to the unknown number. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Oh shit, is this not Megan?" "No, this is Lauren." Another pause. "I'm so sorry, wrong number, but is that your husband?" I stared at my phone, unable to process how my entire world had just imploded through an accidental text. A mistaken message meant for another woman about another cheating partner had just exposed my own. What are the odds? What are the fucking odds? David and I met 9 years ago through mutual friends at a housewarming party. I was immediately drawn to his quick wit and the way he actually listened when I talked, asking thoughtful follow-up questions instead of just waiting for his turn to speak. We exchanged numbers that night, and by our 3rd date, I had that rare, calm certainty. This could be something real. We moved in together after a year of dating, got engaged 6 months later, and married in a small ceremony surrounded by family and close friends. No dramatic proposal story or extravagant wedding, just a sincere commitment between 2 people who genuinely believed we were building a life together. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I thought. We had navigated career changes, a cross-country move, and the heartbreak of 2 miscarriages. Through it all, David had been my rock. Steady, supportive, the one person I believed would never betray me. We had recently started trying for a baby again after taking a year to heal emotionally from our losses. We had a charming brownstone in a neighborhood with good schools. We had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, conversations about retirement and aging parents, and who would take care of whom if one of us became ill. Never once did I imagine that while I was researching fertility treatments, my husband was crafting the perfect dating profile to meet other women. I left work early, unable to focus on anything beyond the screenshot still glowing accusingly on my phone. The 20-minute drive home felt simultaneously endless and too short, not enough time to process what I would say, yet an eternity to sit with this devastating knowledge. David wouldn't be home until 6:30 p.m. His schedule was predictable, or at least I thought it was. Now I wondered how many late meetings, or drinks with clients, had been dates with women who didn't know he wore a wedding ring. I sat at our kitchen island, the screenshot printed and placed on the counter, and waited. Each minute stretched painfully as I rehearsed confrontations in my head, ranging from ice-cold calm to screaming rage. What actually happened was something altogether different. The sound of his key in the lock sent a physical jolt through me. I heard him call out his usual greeting, "Honey, I'm home," the domestic normalcy now feeling like a mockery. "In the kitchen," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. He walked in, loosening his tie, smile fading as he registered my expression. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I couldn't speak. Instead, I simply slid the printed screenshot across the counter toward him. The transformation that came over his face is something I'll never forget. First confusion, then recognition, then this horrifying sequence of calculations visibly working behind his eyes, measuring how much I knew, what he could deny, how he might minimize the damage. Lauren, I can explain. Explain what? My voice emerged barely above a whisper. Explain how you're 31 and single? Explain what kind of casual fun you're looking for while you figure things out? Please, David. I'm fascinated to hear which explanation makes this okay. He sank onto a bar stool, running his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it sent a stab of pain through my chest. How could the man I knew so intimately be such a stranger? It's not what you think, he began, the cliché so predictable I would have laughed if I wasn't drowning in hurt. Let me guess, I interrupted. You weren't actually meeting anyone, you were just looking, just curious, just bored, just... I was going to tell you, he cut in. I've been trying to find the right time, the right words. Tell me what? That I'm not sure about us anymore. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and irrevocable. About any of it. The baby plans, the future we've mapped out. It all feels like it's suffocating me. I stared at him, this man I had held through his father's funeral, who had wiped my tears after each miscarriage, who just last Sunday had brought me coffee in bed and talked about names for our future child. So instead of having that conversation with your wife, you decided to shop for her replacement first? Make sure you had options lined up before you bothered mentioning your doubts? He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? The calm I'd been maintaining cracked, my voice rising with each word. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I found out about your dating profile from a stranger who texted the wrong number? Is it fair that I've been injecting hormones and tracking ovulation while you've been sending messages to other women? I pushed the phone across the counter, showing the screenshot and the conversation with the unknown texter. Do you know how I found out? Someone was trying to warn another woman named Megan about her cheating boyfriend, who also happens to be on Hinge, and sent me your profile by mistake. That's how I discovered my marriage is a lie, through a wrong number text. What are the statistical odds of that, David? Can you calculate that with your analyst brain? His face drained of color as he read the exchange. Lauren, How many women have you met? Have you slept with anyone yet, or were you still in the browsing phase? He swallowed hard. I matched with a few women, met 2 for drinks. And? And nothing happened beyond that, he insisted. I couldn't go through with anything more. Am I supposed to thank you for that? For the remarkable restraint you showed in only emotionally cheating on me? I was confused, scared, feeling trapped. The baby discussions, the fertility appointments, it all became so real, so permanent. And you didn't think to discuss these feelings with me before creating a dating profile? My voice broke on the last words, tears finally spilling over. We've been together 9 years, David. We've survived loss together. How could you not give me the basic respect of a conversation before looking for my replacement? What followed was 3 hours of painful excavation, of his doubts, his fears, his justifications. He claimed he truly didn't know what he wanted, that he was having a midlife crisis at 34, that he loved me but wasn't sure if he was ready for the responsibility of parenthood, or if he had experienced enough of life before settling down. All explanations that might have deserved compassion if they had been offered voluntarily, before betraying my trust. All feelings that could have been addressed through therapy or honest conversation, rather than deception. By midnight, one thing was abundantly clear. Whatever we had, whatever I thought we had, was irreparably damaged. I think you should stay with your brother for a while, I said finally, emotional exhaustion having replaced the initial shock and rage. I need space to figure out what I want to do next. He nodded, the fight gone out of him as well. As he packed an overnight bag, Moving around our bedroom with the awkward carefulness of a stranger, I felt a surreal detachment, as if I were watching someone else's life implode, not my own. Before he left, he paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I do love you. I just don't know if love is enough anymore." "It's not worth much," I replied. And love was never the issue. Honesty and respect were. After the door closed behind him, I sat alone in our home, a space filled with carefully chosen furniture, framed photos of happier times, and plans for a nursery that would likely never exist, and tried to understand how everything I had believed about my marriage had shattered from a single mistaken text. The days following David's departure passed in a blur of practical logistics and overwhelming emotion. I moved through necessary tasks like an automaton, canceling fertility appointments, contacting a lawyer for an initial consultation, explaining the situation to concerned family and friends. My body rebelled against the stress with physiological precision, insomnia that left me staring at the ceiling until dawn, a complete loss of appetite that resulted in losing 7 pounds in a week, headaches so severe they left me nauseated and disoriented. 3 days after the confrontation, I received another text from the unknown number, the accidental messenger who had inadvertently exposed my husband's betrayal. "I know this is incredibly awkward, but I've been worried about you since our exchange. Are you okay? I'm so sorry to have been the bearer of such terrible news." Something about the genuine concern from a complete stranger broke through the protective numbness I had been cultivating. I found myself responding, "Not really okay, but getting through each day. Thank you for asking and for sending that screenshot, even if it wasn't meant for me. Better to know the truth, however it finds you." This began an unexpected exchange with Amber, as I later learned was her name. A woman I had never met who had accidentally altered the course of my life. Our text conversations became an unusual source of support, the bizarre coincidence of our connection somehow making it easier to share the raw truth of what I was experiencing. "I saw 3 separate therapists after discovering my ex's cheating," she wrote one evening. "The first told me to try to understand his perspective. The second suggested date nights to rekindle romance. The third said, 'His choices reflect his character, not your worth.' I fired the first 2 and kept the third." Her hard-earned wisdom and lack of personal entanglement in my life provided a clarity that friends and family, with their understandable rage on my behalf and complicated histories with David, couldn't offer. 1 week after David moved out, the second wave of revelations began, as seems inevitable in these situations. What I had discovered was merely the visible portion of a much larger iceberg of deception. A mutual friend reluctantly shared that she had seen David with another woman at a restaurant across town 2 months earlier. He had introduced her as a work colleague, but their body language had suggested a more intimate connection. The friend had been struggling with whether to tell me when the Hinge profile revelation made her decision for her. More damning was the evidence I found while closing our joint credit card account. Charges for dinners at restaurants we had never visited together, a hotel charge from a weekend David had claimed to be at a business conference, a jewelry purchase near Valentine's Day for an amount that suggested significance, yet I had received only flowers and a card. Each new discovery was like reopening a wound just as it started to scab over. Each lie uncovered made me question not just our recent past, but our entire history. Had there always been other women? Had any of it been real? 2 weeks into our separation, David asked to meet and talk. We chose a neutral coffee shop, the kind of place where the ambient noise provided privacy paradoxically through its lack of it. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began, looking simultaneously familiar and like a stranger across the small table. "A lot of soul-searching." "And," I prompted when he paused too long. "And I made a terrible mistake. Multiple mistakes." He reached for my hand, which I subtly moved out of reach. I got scared about the baby plans, about the permanence of everything. I panicked and did something unforgivable instead of talking to you. "Why?" I asked, the question that had been haunting me. "We've always been able to talk about difficult things. Why not this?" His answer revealed the fundamental crack in the foundation of our relationship, one that had been there all along, invisible to me until the structure collapsed. "Because you always knew exactly what you wanted," he said quietly. "From the beginning, marriage, eventually children, the brownstone in this specific neighborhood. Your certainty made it impossible to admit my doubts without feeling like I was failing you." "So instead you failed our marriage?" The words came out sharper than intended, but I couldn't soften them. "I failed us both," he acknowledged, "and I want to try to repair that damage. Go to counseling, rebuild trust, start over." I studied his face, the face I had woken up to for 9 years, the face I had memorized in all its expressions. There was genuine remorse there, possibly even love. But something essential had been broken, something I wasn't sure could be repaired. "I need more time," I said finally. "This isn't a decision I can make over coffee." As I walked home alone, I realized that while I didn't yet know if I would try to rebuild my marriage, I did know one thing with absolute certainty. I would never again silence my instincts or compromise my need for honesty to accommodate someone else's comfort. It's been 4 months since the screenshot that changed everything. In that time, I've learned more about myself than in the 9 years I spent with David. I've learned that grief for a relationship isn't linear, that anger can suddenly pivot to longing, that certainty can dissolve into doubt overnight, that healing happens in almost imperceptible increments until one day you realize you've gone 24 hours without crying. I've learned who my true support system is, which friends show up with food when you can't feed yourself, which family members can listen without immediately offering solutions, which colleagues respect your privacy while still checking in regularly. Most importantly, I've learned that while betrayal breaks your trust in others, the real work is in not losing trust in yourself, in your judgment, your instincts, your ability to discern truth from performance. After 6 weeks of separation and individual therapy sessions, David and I attempted couples counseling. We sat in the neutral territory of a therapist's office and tried to excavate the remains of our relationship to see if anything salvageable remained beneath the rubble. 3 sessions in, our therapist asked us each to articulate what we wanted from our future, regardless of whether we stayed together. David spoke of freedom, of self-discovery, of not feeling constrained by expectations or timelines. His vision, while valid, contained nothing of the shared life we had been building. When my turn came, I surprised myself with the clarity of my response. I want a partner who is brave enough to be honest, even when the truth is difficult. I want someone who sees me as an ally in life's challenges, not an obstacle to overcome or a constraint to escape. I want to build a family with someone who desires that as deeply as I do. As the words left my mouth, I realized they were simultaneously a vision for my future and a recognition that David was not the person who could share that future with me. The next day, I contacted my lawyer and filed for divorce. The practical dismantling of a shared life is unexpectedly exhausting. The division of assets, the change of names on accounts, the conversations with homeowners insurance and internet providers, and the dozens of entities that had classified us as a single unit. David moved permanently to an apartment across town. We sold the brownstone, neither of us wanting to remain in a space so filled with both beautiful memories and painful deceptions. We divided furniture and artwork with surprising civility, each of us seemingly eager to complete this final untangling and begin again separately. 3 months after filing, our divorce was finalized, the legal conclusion to a relationship that had emotionally ended the moment I saw his face on that dating profile. I've moved to a bright 1-bedroom apartment in a different neighborhood. The first night alone in my new space, I lay awake cataloging the unfamiliar sounds. The different hum of the refrigerator, the creak of new floorboards, the rhythm of my breathing without another person beside me. It was terrifying, it was liberating, it was the beginning of something entirely mine. I haven't deleted the screenshot that ended my marriage. It remains in my phone as a reminder, not of David's betrayal, but of the swift and random way truth can find you when you least expect it. Last week, I received a final text from Amber, the accidental messenger. Checking in on you. How are you doing? I sent her a photo of my new apartment, sunlight streaming through windows hung with curtains I had chosen myself. Rebuilding, I replied, and surprisingly okay with that. She responded with a photo of herself having dinner with a man, both of them smiling genuinely at the camera. Met him 3 months ago. Second date, I showed him all my dating app profiles and asked to see his phone. He laughed and handed it over unlocked. Told me after what happened with my ex, he'd expect nothing less. The right ones understand transparency isn't an accusation, it's a foundation. Her words have stayed with me, a mantra for whatever comes next in my life. Transparency isn't an accusation, it's a foundation. I've begun dating again, cautiously. I'm straightforward about what I've experienced and what I expect. Some men find this directness intimidating, others find it refreshing. I'm no longer interested in softening my needs to seem more accommodating. The fertility books remain packed away. The timeline I had so carefully constructed has been set aside, not abandoned. At 33, I still have time to build the family I want, but now it will be with someone who shares that desire honestly, not someone performing the role they think they should play until the pressure becomes too much. Yesterday I ran into David at a coffee shop, an unexpected collision of our new separate orbits. The initial shock gave way to a surprisingly comfortable short conversation. He looks well, seems lighter somehow. I felt a complicated mixture of lingering affection, distant hurt, and genuine hope that he finds whatever he's looking for. As I walked away, I realized I no longer carry anger like a stone in my chest. Not because what he did wasn't deeply harmful, but because holding on to that anger requires energy. I would rather invest in building something new. The screenshot that wasn't meant for me became the message I didn't know I needed. Painful, unexpected truth that ultimately set me free to find something more authentic than a relationship built on unspoken reservations and festering doubts. Sometimes the wrong text finds exactly the right person at precisely the moment they need to see the truth, however devastating that truth might be. TLDR. A stranger accidentally sent me a screenshot of my husband's dating profile when trying to warn another woman about her cheating boyfriend. The improbable wrong number text exposed his secret life and ended our 7-year marriage, leading to painful revelations, but ultimately setting me on a path to rebuilding an authentic life. Edit 1. So many people have asked about the statistical probability of this happening. I actually looked it up. The odds of receiving a wrong number text are about 1 in 100. The odds of that wrong number text containing relevant information about your own life? Astronomical. I should probably buy a lottery ticket, except I think I've used up all my random chance karma for one lifetime. Edit 2. To those asking if David was having a full-blown affair, yes. During the divorce process, I discovered he had been seeing someone regularly for almost 4 months. The dating app was apparently for variety when she was unavailable. I know this isn't relevant to moving forward, but since so many asked, there's your answer. Update. 3 months later. Life continues to evolve in unexpected ways. I've been promoted at work, started volunteering at a women's shelter, and even went on a promising 3rd date last weekend. The divorce settlement allowed me to put a down payment on a small condo that I'll move into next month, the first property I'll own entirely in my name. I've also made an appointment with a fertility specialist to discuss options for future family planning on my own timeline. As for Amber, the wrong number texter, we've actually met for coffee twice and developed an unusual friendship. We joke that we're founding members of the Accidental Truth Tellers Society. Sometimes the most meaningful connections come from the most random circumstances. Thank you all for your support during the darkest period of my life. Your comments helped me feel less alone when I needed it most.